Declaration, 28 December 2025. Dear beloved citizens of South Sudan, both inside and outside the country. Preamble, prompted by the current economic and political malaise in our country. Recalling that the current constitutional order ended in December 2022 as provided in the revitalized agreement on the resolution of the conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, RRCs, of 2018. Convinced that opportunities to bring about a meaningful change in the country through RRCs or through the Tumaini initiative were deliberately wasted by the government of South Sudan. Cognizance of the resolve of the current leaders of South Sudan to cling to power despite their glaring failures over the last 14 years. Convinced beyond reasonable doubt that the current regime has forfeited its sovereign responsibilities to protect the lives and properties of its citizens, defend the country's sovereignty and its territorial integrity, and deliver social services to the people. And having borne the brunt of that governance, corruption, insecurity, and man-made suffering for far too long, we, the undersigned, representing the vast majority of the people of South Sudan in whom the ultimate sovereignty is vested, solemnly declare the following. 1. The First Republic of our country, July 9, 2011 to December 2025, has sadly ended in failure. This failure is evident in three key areas: economy, security, and governance. On the economy, it is self-evident that our economy is in tatters. The Juba regime has deliberately and consistently refused to embrace economic reforms, as envisaged in Chapter 4 of RRCs regarding the resource, economic, and financial management. In Article 4.8.1.3, the agreement states that within 6 months of the transition, all loans and contracts collateralized or guaranteed against oil shall be identified, checked, and recorded for the purposes of transparency and accountability. The agreement further states in Item 7 in the same article 4.8.1.7 that oil marketing system, including future sales, be open, transparent, and competitive, and any fraudulent dealings shall be checked and severely punished. Sadly, the regime ignored and continues to ignore all those important provisions of the agreement, preparing instead to award crude oil cargoes to patronage circles around Kiir. As a result, the economy collapsed. Inflation skyrocketed. The South Sudanese pound disappeared from circulation, and the civil service system collapsed, resulting in civil servants going for months without salaries. South Sudanese embassies abroad have been closed down, with some of them being sued in courts for non-payment of salaries and rents. This economic outlook means that poverty and despondency are spreading across the breadth and length of our country. On security, the regime did not only fail to provide security for its citizens, but actually encourage them to arm themselves against each other. The regime in Juba is the source of armament for communities, the real quartermaster corps for all the tribal militias. The regime encourages tribal militias to raid each other, abduct children, and rustle cattle, while its ill-equipped but conniving army looks on. The Juba regime only cares about its own survival and security inside Juba town rather than about the security of the whole country. A regime that has forfeited its sovereign right to monopolize the use of arms does not deserve to stay in power. On governance, the regime, as it might be recalled, derived its mandate from Chapter 1 of RRCs that established the revitalized Transitional Government of National Unity Artogoni in 2018. Article 1.2.2 tasks the Artogono to implement the agreement and restore permanent and sustainable peace, security, and stability in the country. Article 1.2.8 tasks the government to ensure prudent, transparent, and accountable management of national wealth and resources to build the nation and promote the welfare of the people. In Article 1.2.6, the government is tasked to work closely with IGAD Plus, member states and organizations, and other partners and friends of South Sudan to consolidate peace and stability in the country. In a blatant violation of the letter and the spirit of the agreement, the regime continued to ignore the provisions of the agreement until the expiry of its duration in February 2022. And in a desperate attempt to legitimize its presence, the regime resorted to a series of illegal extensions of the agreement, the latest of which was in December 2024. As if that assertion of power was not enough, the regime continues to crack down on civil liberties, depriving the citizens of their rights to freedom of speech and association. The regime has arrogated to itself the right to dismiss and arrest its partners in the peace agreement. It continues to deny them any political space to operate. Number 2, the failure of the regime in the critical areas of economy, security, and governance, in addition to its diplomatic failure and subsequent international isolation, are sufficient evidence to conclude that our First Republic from 2011 to 2025 has dismally failed. Remarkably, this failure is manifested in the fact that there is no functioning Council of Ministers now in Juba. The Kiir cabinet doesn't hold any regular meetings. It convenes on an ad hoc basis at the whims of the dictator. Some ministers are in prison, others have fled the country, while yet others are loitering aimlessly in Juba. Indeed, the cabinet captain, Mr. Salva Kiir, jumped the ship long time ago. The SSD ship is totally rudderless and shipwrecked is imminent. And in the absence of a functioning executive branch of government and a functioning political party to formulate policies, important decisions affecting the people of South Sudan are now taken by a cabal of personal assistants and businesses, partners around President Salva Kiir. This situation is reprehensible and unacceptable. That is why the South Sudanese people must take a drastic action to establish a free, democratic, prosperous, and well-governed Second Republic that they deserve. Number 3, in order to usher in a democratic Second Republic in a peaceful way, the current Atagonu must be dissolved. It has outlived its usefulness as well as its mandate, which expired in 2022, though illegally extended to December 2024 and yet again to December 2026. These extensions provide compelling evidence that President Salva Kiir, First Vice President Dr. Riek Machar, and the other vice presidents will never ever deliver on their commitments under the RC's agreement. Therefore, no more time to be wasted. They must either be asked or forced to step aside. As they exit, the business of the people of South Sudan must be entrusted to a new interim government with a new chief executive officer for 24 months. The new CEO will be leading a lean interim administration consisting of civilian technocrats, with original hardcore SPLA officers in charge of the security sector. It is that interim government that will now be tasked with the stabilization of the economy, the security, in addition to writing the permanent constitution and preparing the country for general elections. While such an interim arrangement takes place, the current peg of signatories to RRCs will be free to go to their constituencies to canvass for votes if they still have any to offer to the people of South Sudan. To ensure a tranquil transition, President Kiir and Vice President Riek Machar would be granted immunity from prosecution as long as they commit themselves to the democratic process. To create a conducive atmosphere for free, fair, and credible elections, the civil population must be disarmed during the interim period. Political parties must not be allowed to retain troops and militia outfits. Concurrently, the interim administration shall seek international help in implementing Chapter 4 of RRCs on the resource, economic, and financial management. And in order not to create legislative and oversight vacuum during the interim period, the size of the current parliament should be reduced to the previously legally elected members only. Number 4, the task of asking or forcing President Kiir and Vice President Riek Machar to step aside must be initiated and led by the people of South Sudan themselves, and of course, with the help of our region and the international community. The various constituents of the South Sudanese society, including statesmen, elders, parliamentarians, academics, clergy, retired generals, liberation war veterans, senior SPLM leaders, traditional chiefs, women and youth groups, and civil society organizations should all step forward in unison to ask President Kiir and First Vice President Riek Machar to resign. Our own socio-cultural history is ours, with instances when traditional chiefs were unseated for the general good of the society. That great tradition of peacefully asking leaders to abdicate must be leveraged. Like a young chief of the olden days, Kiir should do the most honorable and conscionable thing, resign. In the event that President Kiir refuses what his people are asking of him, then the process of forcing him out of office becomes inevitable. That eventuality will necessitate the launch of a nationwide people's uprising or intifada. To steer the people's uprising towards its lofty goals, we are pleased and honored to declare the formation of the National Uprising Movement. The people's uprising must be protected by a people's uprising army. And because the Juba regime is a bloody monster that is red in teeth and claws, it must be met by a force that is equally armed and bearing red teeth. In this regard, it is our great honor to declare the formation of the National Uprising Army. The National Uprising Movement Army will champion the cause of the South Sudanese people for democratic change. There's no any other way to topple the Juba dictator except through an armed intifada. Historically, history has taught us that dictators are not talked out of power. They are forcibly walked down to the dustbin of history. This was how Idi Amin of Uganda, Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire, and recently Omar al-Bashir of Sudan and others were removed from power. Number 6. With the base of National Uprising Movement stroke army, all patriotic and nationalistic elements within the South Sudan's People Defense Forces, the former combatants of the SPLA, in addition to the SPLA-IO, SOA, Agwelek, NAS, Abu Shok, and other armed groups in South Sudan are strongly urged to join hands with the National Uprising Army to achieve the overriding objective of overthrowing the Juba regime. Number 7. Finally, to our gallant people of South Sudan, we have this to say. It is such a shame that you have never known peace and stability for 41 years. This is 21 years of the liberation struggle from 1983 to 2005, plus 20 years of misgovernment and misgovernance under Salva Kiir from 2005 to 2025. So to ask you again to support a new phase of the struggle as you did during the first 21 years might seem to be too much asking. Nevertheless, we are vindicated by the brutal truth that your own country has been hijacked. Your very own future and that of your children has been mortgaged in billions of dollars as loans accumulated by the Juba regime. Your own oil and mineral wells have been turned into personal wealth by the Juba regime leaders and their families. In short, the promise of total liberation for which we fought so hard remains unfulfilled. Poverty, hunger, and disease will continue to sleep with you in your own rooms and tukuls if you do nothing to change the regime in Juba. There's no freedom without price. There is certainly a price to be paid during this round of the uprising. But in the end, you will win. You are always a winner. You have always been. May God bless the people of South Sudan. Victory to the gallant uprising of the people of South Sudan. Signed for and on behalf of the group by General Wilson Deng Quairot, former Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, South Sudan Defense Forces, former Ambassador of South Sudan to the Republic of South Africa. Thank you for listening, beloved citizens of the Republic of South Sudan.